my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Tape my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other days. Sometimes I can't tell if my body belongs to me. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Content, hold your breath and feel the tension. Devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell. I wanna taste consumption, breathe faster to waste oxygen. Hear the children sing aloud. It's music till the wick burns out. Be carefree lately, yeah. Just kicking up daisies. Got one too many quarters in my pockets. Count 'em like the four-leaf clovers in my locket. Untied laces, yeah. Just tripping on daydreams. Got dirty little lullabies playing on repeat. Might as well just ride around the nursery and count sheep.
Yes, I'ma get that bass the way she said it. Don't smoke in my face and I'ma let it stay the way it is. Hey now, I'm on my head, I'm circling around her. She look like she wanna. I'm on my head. Tell me what you thought of. What if you say that you need her? Show that you
I just can't let you go. Lord knows that I've tried to. You said I was the only one. No one likes being lied to. You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now I wanna burn all the bridges between us. I can't focus, I can't forget. I've been thinking too much lately. I just need to clear my head. I just need to clear my head. I've been stuck on your memory, but it's not like I need it. And you may have some history, but we don't have to repeat it. You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now I'm gonna burn all the bridges between us. I can't focus, I can't forget. I've been thinking too much lately. I just need to clear my head. I just need to clear my head. I just need to clear my head.
Are we good? Good afternoon, everybody. If I can ask you please to find a seat, settle down so we can start with the 36th Corobrik Student Architecture Awards. And just a quick welcome to all of you and thanks for joining us today, particularly the students for all your hard work that you've put in. All right. On that note, I think you settle down quickly. Some of you. Andre. It's nice to be able to pick on individuals from here. Are we all seated? Are we all seated comfortably twofold on your botties so we can begin? All right, you all got a drink in your hands. Except the ones who are going on stage and are scared of falling off the stage. All right, I think we're good. Can hand over to our MC. Thanks, Farai. Thank you.
Very good afternoon. Can we get a big round of applause? We need more energy. More energy, more energy. There we go. Woo, that was amazing. Whoever it was that was doing the whistling, please come to my wedding in September. We need you there to whistle. But we're so grateful to be here for such an incredible event. And for those who are joining us online, thank you so much for joining us for the Corobrik Student Architecture Awards. One more round of applause for those online as well. Now, this afternoon's event, as much as the students are a bit anxious, please leave your anxiety at the door. This is an incredible celebration of you, of your work, of your impact, of your growth. And you've got so many people who are in this room today and online supporting you and cheering you on in your journey. You would note that it's a very relaxed environment. There are drinks. Let them flow, but remember it's Tuesday. And really, really enjoy, because this is such an incredible and powerful space to be in. And so I am Farai Mubaiwa. For those of you who get a bit confused, you can think of the very, very affordable Ferrari. And so think of Farai, think of Ferrari. And I'm so grateful to be your MC this afternoon. I am the Africa Livelihoods and Education Lead for Accenture. So I focus a lot on employment, entrepreneurship, and education around the continent, working on a lot of projects. Before that, I was the Chief Partnerships Officer at the Youth Employment Service, where we created, during my time there, about 86 or 89, if I'm not mistaken, 1,000 jobs for unemployed South Africans, which is really so important to do within this economy that we face. I am passionate about really advancing the continent. I'm passionate about enhancing the employability of young people, and that's why this session today and this event means so much to me. And before I invite our CEO, Nick Booth, to come to the stage, I just want to paint a very important context for you. And again, to all the students, I want to highlight how important this event is. This is one of those really key career milestones that will set you up and set you apart as you navigate within your journey. And I want to root our context in Africa, because this is ultimately where we are. Africa finds itself at the intersection of an opportunity and a crisis. And I say an opportunity and a crisis because the opportunity is that over 70% of young Africans in sub-Saharan Africa, in fact, over 70% of Africans in sub-Saharan Africa are under age 30. 70%. In countries like Uganda, it's even higher, where about 80% of your population there is under 30. On the flip side of it, many of these young people are what we call NEET, not in employment, education, or training. And 70% of Africans believe that their governments are not doing enough to really deal with the unemployment challenges we face. And so you can understand how there's a great opportunity in the sense that we've got the youngest population in the world. And that means we've got a larger working age population. And if everything would be great, all your young Africans would be boosting GDP, contributing to our economies, and really shifting this idea that Africa is this dark continent. But that's not happening because there are just not enough jobs, and there are not enough industries creating jobs at the rate we need them to. And so we've got a choice. And in this room today, we've got a choice. This is not just a governmental issue. This is not a private sector issue. This is not only Corobrik's issue. This is all of our issue. How do we take Africa's youth boom and transform it into an economic opportunity rather than an economic burden? And one of the ways we've done this is through looking at what are high growth sectors, right? What are sectors that are sustainable? What are those that will create jobs at scale? And I want to read to you what the top high growth sectors on the continent are, and you'll be fascinated by something shortly. These sectors are transport, energy, agriculture and forestry, construction, water and waste management, and manufacturing. The beauty in all of these sectors is how one way or another there is a link to architecture. Architects play such an incredible role in how we want to shape an Africa we want, how we want to shape an Africa that is inclusive and full of growth. And even more importantly, as architects, you get to chart the narrative to say, how do we do this in a way that has got a great influence on our environment? A lot of words we hear these days speak about the green economy, green jobs. How do we build and create in a way that is environmentally friendly and therefore sustainable? And so there is so much opportunity within this room, and the incredible ideas that you've got are testament to that. And no pressure on you, but Eskom needs a lot of help. And there are so many roles that you can play within state institutions, outside of state institutions. And so use this opportunity today to be English, to catapult you to the next level. Use this opportunity to say, what role do I want to play on the continent? I think as South Africans, and I can say this as an African hybrid, we think too narrowly about what is happening in SA, but the continent is so much bigger than us. How can your ideas be catapulted from this platform to a greater platform? And so that is why we are here. It is because each of you have done incredible work and are so important and are trailblazing. And this event for you today is to get you to shine. regardless of who the winner is, it's about being here and allowing you to grow and shine and to take your ideas to the next level. So can we please give the students another round of applause? If you are not motivated after that, I don't know. Really, I don't know. And without any more delay, I'd really love to welcome Mr. Nick Booth, the CEO of Corobrik, to the stage to further inspire you and set the scene.
Not out of the speech, but it's not difficult to be inspired when you see the work in the room, and once again, a round of applause to the students. So, good afternoon to everybody. I had the privilege of having dinner with our 3 esteemed judges on Sunday evening. And what obviously came up was that Corobrik continues to invest into the Student Architect Awards, and this is, as you are well aware, our 36th event. So for 36 years continuously, Corobrik is continuing to invest. But what also came out of it was the number of bursaries and awards that have actually disappeared out of the building and construction industry for architects over the years. And Corobrik has remained steady and steadfast and stalwart in our support of this event. And I'd like to talk to that. But it is concerning. Thank you. But what the judges also said, they said that this lack of recognition for the work that students are doing and architects are doing is actually to the detriment of the profession. And I think that's true. So it's not just about Corobrik, it's not just about the student, it is about the built environment and it's about the architectural profession. So there's no doubt, though, that the present economic environment that we find in South Africa has had a deleterious effect on the building industry, which has obviously has not helped investment into the future generations. But I think it's not the will that's lacking, and it really is the funding. And when you speak to the universities that are represented here and the academics that are here, funding has also become a major driver in the universities, and maybe also to the detriment of what's happening in academia in terms of the quality. Are we focusing on quantity rather than quality? And I think that's one of the challenges that we need to answer to. But that's one of the reasons we need to have events like this where excellence is recognized, and it's not just about quantity but about the quality. So we do remain committed to these awards, and we do remain committed to the architectural profession. And as I said, these are the 36 awards, but once again, next year, in conjunction with the universities, we will be holding the 37th Student Architect Awards. I'm often asked, why does Corobrik continue to do this? And I think the trite answer always is we're giving back, and it's not about just giving back. We see the steady decline in our built environment, and it worries us. And not just because we sell bricks, but because we live in South Africa. And the steady decay, and I think it's only by saying, how do you stop this? Well, the way you do this is you acknowledge the excellence. And by getting these nodes of excellence, you're actually saying to people, you don't have to live like this. There is a better way. And again, awards like this keep pointing to these, getting us to these nodes of excellence. Every year we have the privilege of partaking. I've lost my pages, it's my apologies. With these projects that are always insightful and always meant to improve the lives and livelihoods of everyday people. If you go through these presentations, you can see they're aimed at South Africans. They are not ego projects, but are projects that are aimed at specific solutions for the greater good of the communities they are meant to serve. And then once again, my congratulations to the students, because you've really gone out of your way to address the needs of the communities in which we live. And what are these projects? They really are dreams. And it's dreams that as you have presented to us, that allow the rest of us to dream as well. And we, the greater community, should be accepting this challenge to dream that these young people are giving us. And we should all try and realize the dream of a better South Africa. Now that's easily said. So how are these large dreams fulfilled? And I think I said something similar at the SCI Awards, but really they're fulfilled by small actions by individuals. And urge every one of us in this room today and online that we never stop acting and getting things done. We never stop improving ourselves and those around us. And we keep on striving towards the excellence like we're seeing today. In these difficult times that we face in South Africa, we really need these gems, these nuggets, to inspire all of us to achieve a better future. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Nick. I think what you've said is so important about how, we have to ensure that we can dream if we do want to imagine a better South Africa. The one thing that people always tell me is that young people are the leaders of tomorrow. And they're always shocked when I disagree. And I disagree because I don't believe that. I think if you keep waiting for young people to lead tomorrow, young people will never get to lead. And I think a platform like this creates the space where young people lead in the sense that your ideas, your hard work is out there. And so when I look at you and I look at the work you've done, I feel so content knowing that maybe SA is in great hands. Maybe a lot of the issues that we see happening will change. Maybe we won't have tigers on the loose. And that'll mean that our country is in great hands, and that's the least of our issues these days. And so I think it's really exciting that we can be here today, that we can celebrate you from the different universities that you come from, and you are representing your universities so beautifully. Now, before we get to know each of you, we're going to invite the judges onto the stage. And we're going to get to know each of the judges, not only what their experience was within the process, but also why architecture? Why is this the path that each of them have chosen? So I'm going to first invite up Henry, and can we give Henry a big round of applause? Super. And then the second judge I'm going to invite is Jody. Can we give Jody a big round of applause? And last but not least, our third judge, Wandile. Another big round of applause. Perfect. Thank you so much to our judges. Thank you for also leaving my chair as I get comfortable. So judges, it's been such a great process that you have been in. From what I understand, even engaging on who the winner is has been such an incredible process, which speaks to the quality of work that we've seen. But before we look at your actual process and the judging and what it is you expected, I'd love to find out from each of you, why architecture? From all the careers that are out there, why is this the career path you chose? And we're going to start with Henry, then go on to Wandile, and then Jody.
Luckily, we were a little bit briefed before the time, so thanks for that. So architecture was something that I always knew that I wanted to do. I think the opportunities that I saw on a farm where there's no buildings inspired me to actually want to build something, and I think that maybe was the reason for it. It was a shock to the family because the tradition of being a farmer is not going to be continued, but I think they dealt with that in the meantime.
That's super. Really appreciate that. Wandile?
So for me, architecture wasn't my first choice in life. I always wanted to play professional football. But I always had an artistic side growing up, and I always had an interest in photography. But one thing that captured me when I started traveling was the scale of the buildings. And I was always interested as to how do you put that thing together? And that was something for me that I really wanted to get into. So architecture was something that I went into cold. I had no idea what it was about. I didn't know anything about architecture until I got to first year, which was interesting. And then I fell in love with it, and here I am.
Sure, that's so super, absolutely. Jody?
A bit of a similar route as Wandile in that I did art at school, and I had an incredibly inspiring art teacher who deviated from the norm in terms of the syllabus and just exposed us to different mediums of expression, and architecture was one of that. parallel to that, I always had this consciousness as a child growing up in a township on the fringe in the South Basin of Durban, that spaces just didn't look like what I experienced when I went to other places. I never had a full understanding of that as a child, and I was fortunate enough to travel overseas when I was about 12 years old, and I was just in awe that there were places in the world that could look the way that they did, and that there were thriving cities and cultures and people just immersed in there. And I guess that, together with the education that I was given by an inspired teacher and a father that was in the building industry, just made me realize that I could be part of a system that could work towards changing the way our built environments are in whatever small way. So again, years later, here I am.
Sure. And I think, so Jody, as a woman within a space that is often seen as being for men, how have you navigated the architectural space? And have you seen changes within female representation within the sector?
I'll answer the second question first, and to that point I would say yes. And I think a lot has to do with the acceptance of women in general in the space in positions of authority. So yes, we certainly don't have enough to balance the scales, and I think that is happening. Just when we look around the room at the presentations of the students, I think that's testament to see the talent that is certainly there, and the courage of young women to start pursuing industries that I think for many decades were reserved for men. My own experience has been very positive. I've been very blessed to have been mentored by people who have always been very willing to share their knowledge and expertise and experience, and I've been largely embraced. There have been isolated incidents, that were not so positive, but I think that, in my personal experience, has been so minimal that it's not been able to shadow the greater part of my experience, which has been positive. So I feel very much like architecture is my space, and I feel firm that I have a place in it. So.
Sure. There's definitely power in taking up space. We're going to do something quickly that millennials do on TikTok, and we're going to say, yes, queen. Can everyone say it together?
Yes, queen.
Don't be jealous of the queen. Let's say together, yes, queen.
Yes, queen.
We'll work on that. We'll get back to that. So Wandile, when you look at the demographics within the architectural sector from a race perspective, you still don't see enough young black people entering architecture. And why do you think that is? And how do you, through your work, mentor young people so that that is a space they can enter?
I think it's a very interesting question. It's something that we spoke about at one of the dinners on, I think the first night, was that entering the universities, you pay for the fees, and there's a lot of added cost that comes with architecture that I think is not being addressed. There's printing costs, there's materials, there's model building, there's a lot of stuff that comes along with that. And coming into architecture and not fully understanding what it takes to make it through the years, I think a lot of people drop out just for the financial aspect of that. But coming into the space as well, there's a lot of space for transformation. It still isn't a space that I feel is representative of the country, and I think that as a young black man in the architectural world, it is partly my duty to empower and to mentor young architects that want to enter the space so that it is inclusive.
Absolutely, and I must say, just looking at the faces who are in the room, looking at the students, I mean, with Corobrik, you really have got an inclusive environment that shows South Africans that architecture is for anyone and that it should be accessible to everyone. So let's give Corobrik a big round of applause. Henry, from your experience as a lecturer, what are often the topics of work that would excite young people, and what are those where you'd find that students would struggle a bit more?
I think students are very much in tune with what's happening in their immediate surroundings. and they probably know more about what's happening on social media than we sometimes give them credit for. So I think in that realm they pick up quite a lot on what the current issues are, and most of them would like to respond to that specifically within the projects that they do. But I've also noticed that the different schools in the countries definitely has a certain strength in terms of the trend of projects that come from them. And I think that those students are benefiting from that due to the fact that you could build up a reservoir of knowledge that would almost direct students who are interested in that topics to choose that school for their studies. So students are a wonderful bunch. It's great to see their enthusiasm, and it's great to see how they look at the world and how they understand it, and give proposals from their point of view that some of us who's maybe from an older generation don't always think of.
That's super. And perhaps staying with you, Henry, what have you enjoyed about this experience?
Besides being called the judges, the experience is to be in on a platform where you could share with colleagues that are in the profession. So there's a lot of stuff that we could talk about, that we experience in our own practices, and that's going on in the industry. So I really enjoyed that. And then above all, obviously, the students' work is great to see. It's wonderful really to engage with students on this level and to be able to have, we actually had an hour with each student, which is a lot of time that went by like that. Hey? It was quite quick. And that gave us time to get to know the person, to get to know the work, and to be able to engage with young minds. It's very stimulating and creative, really, it is. It's like an injection of creativity.
Wandile, what has been the most difficult process? We've heard from Henry what the highlights were, but what was difficult for you within this experience?
That is a difficult question. I think it was really trying to give feedback in a way to the students that is constructive. And we really coming towards the end of it, we were really sitting here trying to figure out, who do we give this award to? It's a lot of, it feels like there's a lot of responsibility in that. And I think we were so invested in this whole process. But in that difficulty, it was really inspiring to see the work and to really tackle with, engage with it and grapple with it. So it was difficult to give them that feedback that really will keep them going and keep them on their path. That was, I think, the most difficult part about it, if anything.
Absolutely. And Jody, what would your advice be to each of the students who are here today?
I don't like that question. In the sense that I don't feel at any point that I'm not even so sure that our advice is so relevant, in the sense that the students are engaging with the world that's so different. And so I agree that the process for us was so inspiring, because we walked away feeling with some of the, particularly in the reading in the 2 months prior to this, how inspired we were or educated we were by the content of the students' reports and documents. But I think some of what we shared with some of the students, I could say maybe as a point of advice. For us, it was really exciting to see how distinct characters coming through in the work of some students. That's not specifically related to the nature of projects. It's what says a lot more about the student, what they prioritize, what they care for. And for me, when I see that in new graduates, the only piece of advice that I can say is just harness that strength and stick with it. We were just discussing last night that we just hope that we don't have a bunch of students here who have really pursued and achieved distinction in their work, that move away from this and then are disillusioned. Because I think that You need to take charge of creating the experience that you want in profession. And that may mean stepping out and contributing in different ways, in the same way that that's what this experience has given us. So you've got to find those places where I think it ignites the spark each time, because this is a bit of a high point. And when you walk away from that, you've got to find other experiences that keep you feeling the way you're feeling right now.
I think the judges have shared such important words of wisdom with us, right? Which is that we should not stop. Whatever the result is today, just keep on going. The fact that you're all here is already so incredible and such an achievement in what we've done. We heard from Henry how the way students think, the way you're also aware of what is happening in the world is so profound and so different, which I think just shows the power of having so much information and knowledge. And we also heard from Wandile how it was difficult making the decision, which also just shows you how we've got excellence in this room, which is what Nick had highlighted earlier. I think if the decision was easy, there wouldn't be a need to have such a gathering. But because of how talented everyone is and the exceptional ideas, that's what made it so difficult. I'd like to think of myself as a smart person, but each time I walked near I don't even have the English for what you've done here, I would be like, let me just walk away in case someone says, so what do you think about the X in the corner? And I would not know what to say. And so you've really, really done a fantastic job, and we're really, really grateful to be here. So what's going to happen now is that the judges are going to have some quality time with the students. So I will be calling up students in 2x2s so that you can have a chat with the judges. It's meant to be as conversational as possible. We'll be asking you questions like what your experience has been like, what you've learned throughout the process. And yeah, this is really a time for you to just engage with the judges. The reason I started by asking them why architecture is so that you don't only see them as judges, but they're human beings who have had their own journeys, and there's so much that you can learn from someone when you view them as a human and not, you judge. And so we're going to start with our first two students. Can we please have Ane and Cindy? And let's give them a big round of applause. One more round of applause for Ane and Cindy. And the students, and each discussion you'll have about 5 minutes, no African time too, but about 5 minutes to just engage as much as possible.
2 minutes. You got a lot to talk about.
So you can relax. We're not going to talk about your projects. We're going to talk about the experience. We're going to talk about who you are and how you enjoyed this day. So I'm going to pose a question, and then we can elaborate on it and talk a little bit about it, and that's basically all it is. So in the work that we've seen, it's clear that all of the students have some sort of a creative outlet. Some draw, some paint, some build models. There's a student that built us a scale 1 to 2 that could almost be a scale 1 to 1 timber structure. So we were wondering, what were you doing in terms of creative outlets, and how does that sort of build back into your architecture?
Okay, I'll start here. So thank you. So I think for me personally, I do a bit of drawing, a bit of painting, something in that line. But I think for my project specifically, mainly, I experimented a lot with materiality, and I think I'm a very tactile person, and I need to understand the materials and things I'm working with. So I experimented a lot with the product I was trying to get and achieve, and that gave me such a good insight into the actual product I'm working with, and I think that kind of gave me a better idea of where I need to go with my architecture to tie that back to what I'm working with. Yeah.
You also mentioned fashion.
Yeah. So the inspiration for this project started with a fashion designer that I saw as an inspiration. I read the article about her work, and yeah, it was just really interesting. It was a new type of thing that I haven't read about a lot, so I did a lot of research, those types of things, and then I just wanted to experiment with it myself as well and see where you can take it. Yeah.
Cindy?
I think for me, how I went about my project, of course I'm speaking of broken narratives. So a lot of the time, as you see with my cover page, that's a broken saucer. So a lot of the time I had to break things in order to put them back, and what that means. Does it expand? Does it contract? And what does that mean for the story? Does it grow? Are there gaps? So it's a process of experimenting. It was a very interesting process of what happens, what will happen now. So there wasn't really a streamlined process of this is what I do and this and this, but it was really about experimenting, putting things together, different materials, clay, sources, glass, and finding meaning in that process. I think that was the most interesting part for me.
And what do you do to keep your creativity up? Like sometimes when you feel like you're in a box, how do you get out of that box?
The stuff that's not architecture.
Yeah. What other things do you do to keep your creativity going?
I don't know if it keeps my creativity going, but I am interested in a lot of cooking. So
Eating?
yeah, so it's a lot of cooking, and I think part of what that is experimental. Put a little bit of this here, a little bit of that here, and I think that's always been my process. So yeah.
And you?
Besides,
How do you keep the juices flowing?
Besides architecture, I think I draw a lot. I think I like, the fashion thing is definitely still there. I think I like experimenting with those types of things. Yeah, we're doing a bit of painting. I think it's, what I showed in my project is basically, that was more fun for me to, yeah, it's basically just my personal life coming into my project a bit. So I think the type of things I experimented with in my project is kind of, when I hit a mind block somewhere, I think I went back to experimenting with things, and that kind of just got you back onto the road of trying to just figuring it out. Yeah.
So how, do we have one more? I don't know what time looks like, but, oh. So in 10 seconds, how would you explain creativity to the rest of the professional team one day if you're facing a quantity surveyor and an engineer?
I'm short on time here. Difficult question. I think creativity is just generally expressing yourself in any way possible, whether that is painting, whatever you want to do. I think creativity is just thinking out loud, basically, trying to understand ideas. Yeah.
I think creativity is experimenting. It's a process of trial and error. You won't always get it right, but it is that process, that is part of the process, and I think eventually you'll get there.
Thank you very much, Anae and Cindy. It's really so super how holistic the questions are. Thank you to our judges. It was not just about architecture, but what you do in your spare time that also just keeps the creative juices flowing. So a big thank you to Anae and Cindy, and to our judges for the insightful questions. I feel like your questions are too good. You are competing. Now we're going to call upon Francois and Catherine. Can we please welcome Francois and Catherine?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Very exciting. I just want to say again to all the students, the work was amazing. The research was really, really, really amazing. So I want to thank you for that. Architecture is a long journey, and I think we go through phases, through all of the years. But I wanted to know, and Catherine, I'll start with you. What did you learn about yourself, not just in this process, but throughout the architectural journey and studying?
it's very difficult because it is something that you dedicate every waking moment to. You are so involved and entrenched in it. So in that moment, you don't really see it, and you're not thinking about it, but then afterwards, you come out realizing that I really enjoyed this and I didn't think I ever would, be it, theoretical explorations you're able to have, or just avenues that you're able to explore in studying in architecture that you would have never even considered before. And I think that's the beauty of it, and you experiment with so much that you just learn all the time.
Yeah. And what about you?
Yeah, I think starting architectural school in first year, you go in with nothing and you really don't know what to do or what to expect. You kind of go from grade 12 and what you learned from EGD, and that's it. And I think what I learned most about myself is my ability to have creative expression in terms of sketching, model building, and conceptual thinking. And I think that grew over time from first year up until sixth year. And for me, yeah, fifth year really unlocked something in my head in terms of the contribution and the value of architecture in terms of to society and to community and to upbuild. So yeah.
Okay. And I really engaged with what you're saying, because I feel like when I was an architect, I learned a lot more about other things other than architecture. And I just wanted to also know if there was something that you would have done differently, or any advice that you could give to any of the coming students, what would that be? What would you say to them?
I think it's just embrace the process. And I mean, especially in those undergrad years, in first year, you don't have a clue what you're doing or why they're making you do certain things, but just go with it. And even if you figure out at the end of that that's not for you, the way that those different thinkings can translate into different things is always also so amazing to see what people do with an architectural background outside of architecture, which is always so inspiring.
Yeah, I think for me is really trying to understand the Architectural Academy as a learning curve and a process of learning. I think we tend to sometimes try to really execute the best project possible, but we tend to miss the fact that you need to explore and explore your tool set, like really modeling, making, sketching. For me, expressing an artistic idea or a concept is, if you are limited in terms of your tool set, then your expression is limited. So, yeah, I'd say, as an advice, try to extend your tool set in terms of exploring, even if it's something that might be unconventional or something new. Yeah.
I think finally, what would you say excites you the most about becoming an architect and actually going out there and putting your mark on the world? What excites you the most about that?
Something I think still to be discovered, and that's maybe what is exciting about it, is the different opportunities and how much you can get involved in, how broad it is, and I think it's being able to engage with people, space, learn how they use it, and really get involved with that. That's always very exciting.
Yeah, I think for myself, you tend to only look at your projects on a poster and that's it. And I think what excites me most is to actually, hopefully one day, get to experience that space that you design. Especially with my final thesis, the spaces that I created were so somewhat enchanting for myself, and seemed really, I'm quite excited about those spaces. So I think, getting the opportunity to actually start building these spaces and experience them as you visit site, to see the progress of the spaces being formed and getting to that final completion.
Yeah. So there was a reason why I asked that question, because I think with the two of you particularly, we saw a lot of you coming through in your presentations. And I think if I can give some advice, going into the architectural world is don't lose that. Really show yourself in your work. And I think that will really be authentic. So very well done to the two of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Let's give another big round of applause to Francois and Catherine. What was so clear from the discussions was how architecture has an impact on the communities we come from or the communities we want to serve. And I think driving that home is absolutely key. Our next two, can we please have Creolin and Luzuko?
Hi, guys.
Hi.
So I want to know from the two of you, you've now navigated this mammoth kind of task and experience. What personality trait or developed skill do you think has helped you to best navigate this journey as a student architect thus far? What inherent about you do you think has led to where you are right now?
Thank you for actually asking the question. I think looking at myself, I'm very introverted in a sense of my character and my upbringing with the teachings from my parents. But in a sense of architecture, when I got in and had told myself that I'm fully invested in this thing because it's something I see myself taking it to the end and developing it as a skill, I saw myself being extroverted and being able to discuss questions, being eager to learn, and finding my creative space in sense of looking at myself. You would not see me as someone you would think is creative, because some sense creativeness comes with being an artistic way or dressing some type of way. But I found myself seeing that the mind is the most source for creativeness, and I've fully invested that as myself and visualized myself in that sense. Yes.
I think for me as well, similar. I was also always a shy person, so coming out into this profession and really expressing myself and what I want to do and the way I want to change things. So yeah, it really brought about my creative side. I'm sure at times it was really difficult to deal with, but yeah, that's pretty much what I can say.
Well, that's certainly a similarity then of both of you, which didn't necessarily come through in what you in the method of presentation. So you guys both did very well, and maybe you fooled us in your confidence. So good on that. But again, I guess leading on from that then, for both of you, expressing that you're slightly introverted, architecture is very much your method of expression. So to that point, how do you think as architects, using your method of expression, do you see yourselves, or how do you envision making your impact?
All right. I've seen myself in different spaces within the few years of studying architecture, from the church space, from teaching students, and also being engaging into the field of architecture, talking with clients. I find that if you know something and you can explain it, everyone will have confidence in you. And that has been something that I've fully invested because of knowing that maybe I look very young when someone sees me, but if you look at my courage and you see how I'm very invested in something and I can actually be able to explain something so that you can understand as someone who does not have an idea of what I'm trying to express or show to you. And I've fully found that people tend to really appreciate you when you are very eager to express and show them that anyone can be able to understand something if they are leaded in a right direction. Yes.
Yeah, for me, I think when you showcase our work and things, I think it's important to make it as visual as possible and easy for people to understand. So that's why I've always tried to find a balance between how you present your work, whether it's 50-50 between writing and text, so that people can engage in the way you're expressing yourself. So yeah.
So my last question would just be on that note, you're about to embark on a career in architecture. What are you most excited about, what you can achieve in the South African context?
Thank you so much for the question. I think with the journey to Corobrik, and I've looked at myself, introspecting into myself, I've found that recognition is something that I have seen people appreciating from me with my projects, with my character. And there's a quote that was talked to when I received a bursary from BKI, an institute for architects, from Mrs. Ngonyama, when she said the goal that Mr. Sindile had was a quote that says, "Uba undiphakamisile, ndobaphakamisa nabanye," which means when God lifts me up, I will then lift others up. And that I found that very inspiring, because when she said those words, I knew that this is the journey that I'm planning to tackle on and do, because if someone inspired me to do architecture, I have a role to inspire others and even do more to make sure that architecture is broadcasted all over the world, or from spaces that are not being able to be reached on. Because I come from the township, but this is where I'm at, and that is through communication that has been expressed about architecture. Thank you.
For me, going into the field, I think it's important, well, what I'm excited to do is learn as much as I can and obtain as much knowledge as I can. I think exploring and engaging with different community projects that we're doing, it's also allowing me to understand how these different people live, the spaces they use and things like that. So yeah, I just want to impact in that way and help people. That's about it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Let's give Luzuko and Creole another big round of applause.
Who's asking now?
I think that it's
Pardon?
so interesting to hear the different themes which emerged. And these themes looked at how to pay it forward, how you can be introverted and courageous at the same time, and how architecture is a method of self-expression, which is so incredible. Our last two, but certainly not least, can we please welcome Melisha and Mia.
Melisha and Mia, so you were part of a generation where artificial intelligence and technology is something that is almost part of your everyday lives. So in terms of that, how do you think that could be incorporated in your career as an architect, and what do you think are the possibilities of artificial intelligence? Do you think there is? Do you think there's not? Is it a no? Is it a yes? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, if I can start. I think technology is obviously evolving very fast. I can almost see it in the projects today, where there are so many different means of exploration, architectural exploration, And I think it is definitely something we have to embrace. But I don't want to say get over to it, because it sounds a bit iRobot. But definitely embrace it, but still rely on our own means, our own sort of creative expression. But yeah, I definitely think it's something that could be used as a tool if used correctly. Yeah, I definitely don't think we should shy away from the development thereof and the potential.
I think that there's a great opportunity there to automate things that we don't really want to spend time doing, things that can be automated simply for us, so that we can spend time on really designing and doing things that matter to us. I think for me personally, I really love doing things by hand. I've always loved that. I find a lot of beauty in having a connection with my hand and my brain to the page. And so I think that as much as we can let AI come into the space, I think we should really hold on to our design abilities and our ability to express ourselves visually and graphically. And I think it becomes more and more important as AI takes over to have that skill to represent things with your own hand and with your own mind. Yeah.
I think that's really important. Looking at this amazing body of work and how each of you has your own personal presentation styles, I was wondering, is looking through the room and at everyone else's presentation, is there something that you learned that you could possibly adapt to your own personal style going forward?
I definitely think so. It was a wonderful experience, the few days we had here, and just in conversations with each other over dinners, speaking about not only our respective universities and how they approach the different courses, but our own ways of production. We were able to share some software tips. We were able to share, a bunch of sort of different things that helped us produce the work that we were able to produce. And I think these conversations are very important, and these sort of events are very important, because we, in a busy workday, don't often have these sorts of conversations about production. It's often about getting sort of the product out. So yeah, it was very fruitful, and I can personally say I took a lot from this experience.
Yeah, I think for me it's similar to what she said. I think we had a lot of great discussions over the last 3 days together around lunch and dinner, and we were able to discuss different programs that we use and different techniques and what inspires us when we're creating. And I've been really inspired by the way people build models and the sort of great scales of things that people are building and the way that they express it through renders and through diagrams. I think it's always exciting to see how other people go about that process, because you're very much in your box when you're designing and you have your way. So it's great to see such an array of different paths and talents. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask, just leading on from that, and you've touched on it a little bit. What has been the best and the worst part of this experience? I think, in honesty, I mean, we know that thesis is incredibly intense, but it's also very insular. And this is possibly one of those few chances where you get to kind of step away and see what other people have been doing intensely for a long period of time. So what of that experience has been like intensely negative and intensely positive for you?
It's difficult when you're sort of out of it. You tend to sort of get caught up in the negative when you're in it, because it can at times be overwhelming. But I think, like Catherine said, sort of when you leave the process, you are only then able to reflect on how positive it's actually been and how much you've learned, how much you've grown. And it's then, I think, difficult to remember the negative when the process at the end was, mostly positive. And yeah, this experience was very positive. Obviously, the nerves was definitely at play around Sunday, Monday morning. But yeah, it's been predominantly so positive, and meeting amazing architects, making very good friends. So yeah, it's been lovely.
So for me, I absolutely loved my master's year. That process was incredible for me. I was given the space and the platform to really follow my unique path in the degree. And it was such a fulfilling space to be in, especially for me going with my path of expressing things through hand drawing, which is really like, it just brings my heart alive when I do that. So it was such an exciting experience to be in. I'd say the negative was, I guess, the long hours. We work very late. Your family and your friends kind of take on the stress with you. And one of my lecturers always said that it takes an army to get one architect through that process. But through that process, I've learned to create balance in my life, and I think that's something you can take from that negative experience. Is architecture's great, and it can be all-encompassing, but you should also step back from that and have other things in your life and have the balance, and then it fulfills you in a more holistic way. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Melisha and Mia. And let's give a round of applause to our judges as well. They have really, really worked consistently, even last night. Now you're working again. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you and all you've done. And for your words of wisdom, I think we can really take so much of what you've said this afternoon. And with that, you're welcome to take your comfy seat before we announce the winners.
Thank you.
Now, what's been absolutely profound this afternoon is just learning so much about architecture. And you may not know this, but one of the top 10 reasons that South Africa and Africa at large has got such high levels of unemployment is because of what we term information asymmetries. And this is where young people think they know what skills or qualifications they need to be employed, then the labor market says something completely different. And the only way to change and remove information asymmetries is by sharing information. So can everyone please take out their phone? This is the digital age. I know you all have phones. And can you go onto LinkedIn? If you don't have LinkedIn, Facebook is okay, maybe even Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whichever social media platform you're on. And can you please hashtag Corobrik? Hashtag Corobrik. Don't worry, it's going somewhere. Hashtag Corobrik. Hashtag architecture. And then for later when you get home, can you write a beautiful 3-liner on why architecture is so important, how you can get into this field, and how it is for everyone. Is that a commitment? I'm going to check hashtag Corobrik tomorrow morning. And I remember the faces in the room, and I'll find you. Okay? Great. Because it's so important that we can teach people out there about what architecture is about. And I think this is a fantastic platform that really does that. So now it's the moment you've all been waiting for. And it's time for the awards. And just before we get into the actual awards, I'm going to welcome Peter, the chairman of Corobrik, who, by the way, called me the boss lady this afternoon. So when the chairman calls you the boss lady, you're a pretty big deal. So Peter is going to come up and share just some brief words of wisdom and also the importance of these awards. And thereafter, we'll be giving out certificates to all of the students. Thank you, Peter.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a personal welcome to all of you. I really called her the boss lady because she earns more than me, that's all. But it is our pleasure to host this event, and we've done it, as you've heard already, for 36 years. And it really is Corobrik's way of trying to promote excellence in the industry and to keep that excellence up, and the excellence not only in this industry, but the excellence in South Africa that we so desperately need, especially in the industries and in business today. To the judges, congratulations and well done. And if you ever give up architecture, take up TV interviewing or something. I think you did a wonderful job at doing that. And I guess that's now you know what Simon Cowell feels like when he's doing the X Factor or whatever he does. I'd also like to extend my congratulations to all the students, but not only the students, but also the people that have helped them in this process, because I'm sure when I look at all the work that's done, and it always amazes me at the amount of work and effort that gets put into these projects and the rest of your studies. Thank goodness I never chose architecture, because I don't think I would have got that right. But to the universities, the professors, the studio masters, the lecturers, and of course also your parents, your spouses, whoever supported you through this process. I think it doesn't happen without that support. So to all of you that have helped the students, our personal and Corobrik's thanks and congratulations on getting them through that. I think it's a job well done. What I'd now like to do is we're going to call up the students. We're going to give you all a certificate for having done such good work, which I hope you find a nice place in your office, either now or your office in the future. And I know that a lot of you students will end up moving out of the country. I think that's what happened. Statistically, over the 36 years, about 50% of the architects that were winners here have practice overseas, which is a terrible brain drain, but it just shows the level of competence and expertise that is created in South Africa, and unfortunately is not always used in South Africa. But if you do choose to go overseas, and certainly we hold no grudges against those that do, don't forget your roots, and remember to come back sometime and apply your abilities and your brains and your skills in South Africa. This is where we need young, bright brains that are prepared to work hard and put stuff back into this country. The country's definitely got hope. It's in a rough place at the moment, but industry and business definitely is trying to get the country to go, and we need young brains, we need people, not only artificial intelligence, we need people to do that, and I hope that you all at some stage put that in. So I wonder if I can ask you to call up the students. Somebody's going to hand me the certificates, and if you can all come up and we'll get a chance of a photo shot.
All right, so how it would work is that when I call up
See,
your
that's
name...
why she's the boss. She's telling me now how it's going to work.
So how it will work is that when I call up your name, if you can please come on this side of the stage, you'll get your certificate there first. You will then come up on this side of the stage. You'll take a lovely photo with Peter. And then after that, you'll walk out. And the photograph man, the cameraman is just over there. So you'll need to pose and smile here. And then you can go and take your seat again. Are we all good? Super. So the first name is Anne Meyer. Have Cindy Langa. François Groenewald. Catherine van Weengaarden. Creolin Lyle Niker. Ngokofunda. Melisha van Loggerenberg. Mia Pullis. And now can we give all of the students the biggest round of applause? And now I'll ask Peter if he can please announce a special commendation for a student's work who was incredibly outstanding and whom the judges feel had really answered the brief, and as a result, they deserve this special commendation. Can we get a drum roll, please?
So it's my honor always to, or has been over the last number of years, to hand out the awards. We always only have one winner, and that's the rules of the competition. But this year, the judges felt it was such a close competition that they wanted to acknowledge a runner-up with this Commendation Award, and Corobrik has agreed to put 20,000 Rand towards that award, and that goes to Ane.
We call upon Peter to please announce the winner of the Corobrik Architectural Student of the Year 2022. But before that, we need a big drum roll. Can we give it all we've got?
And just a gentle reminder to the students and the other architects in the room, these events are not possible if you don't specify Corobrik Facebrick, so please bear that in mind. That's just my little punt for the evening. And it's now my pleasure to announce the winner of the 22 Student Architect Award, who wins not only the prestige and the ability to kickstart your career, which I'm sure all of you will do, it also carries 70,000 Rand prize from the University of Nelson Mandela, Lesotho. It's not as important as what's in the letter.
Okay. Can I just put this here? Oh wow, this is a moment. It's so much of a moment. I'll cry and tear down at this point, but I feel confident. I'd like to thank my lecturer first, Andrew Profferman. He has been such an experience because He has supported me throughout from the beginning of the project to this point. And he has been the guide of be realistic. What are the fundamentals? Everyone knows it was from Nelson Mandela. And I'd like to thank everyone who has supported me. It has been such a support, like from local craftsman company, doing my model, from the university, to friends and family, and to the Corobrik as well. Like, I can't say anything, Thilo, you have been such an experience. I thank everyone who's been here, who has voted for me, who has, the judges. I'm very proud. Like, thank you guys for appreciating what I've done and what I've made to communicate. And this is architecture, this is the mind, this is the experience. Thank you.
Well done again. Huh? That's excellent. Huh? And take your stop. Again, congratulations to everybody involved. Thank you to the Corobrik people that organised the event, and Nick will close it off now and invite you, I'm sure, to have a drink and enjoy the evening. Thank you very much.
Is this one on? Cool. I think, first of all, congratulations to all of you. It's been an enjoyable few days. And obviously to the winners, a special congratulations. But there's one person whose name is synonymous. And Lizuku touched on the name. And if you talk to any of the student architects who've been through this process with architects, with the students over the last 36 years, there's one name that everybody talks about year after year after year, and I'd like to acknowledge her today, because this one she did on her own. And I said to you, doing this one on your own, Thilo. So please come up here. Thilo will tell you that her boss is an absolute bastard, and she's right, I am. But I put Thilo under huge pressure for this event, and she responded in spades. And I think the students will, who she's dealt with the last few days will tell you she goes to the ends of the earth for her students. Because you 8 guys are now, you are all part of Thilo's students. So Thilo, well done. Hang on. Well done, Thilo. Thank you. I'd like to invite all of you now, please join us for a drink. The guys from Pretoria, a dop. And those of you from NMU, a pooza. I know it's not Thursday, but we'll do it anyway. Please enjoy, guys. Thanks.